When the governor sent down HB2500 prior to the beginning of this session, it built on her vision for the future of Hawaii. Last year, the governor articulated a bold vision for the future of Hawaii, a vision of innovation. She called for basing our economy on the most plentiful resource, our brains, our innovation. She also called for bringing an end to the problem of homelessness. She called for bringing opportunity to those most in need through employment opportunities as well as relief from higher cost of living. Each innovative idea was funded through HB 2500. Through the process, there were areas of common ground, the limited advances for renewable energy, whether we talk about clotheslines or allowing solar energy farming on agricultural lands, is all well and good. Funding incentives for important agricultural lands, an issue the legislature really hasn't moved on since 1978 Constitutional Convention, is also a nice item. But the collaboration and desire to chart the future for Hawaii that was somewhat evident last year is absent this year. The choices made in this budget turn away from innovation, turn away from investment in our people. At the end of the day, this budget is more about repudiation of investing in our people, personal choice, and personal responsibility. I wanted to specifically address the public charter schools because there are a lot of comments that were made in the Budgets Committee report. The comments reflect everyone else's missteps regarding public charter school funding, but it conveniently leaves out our part in this mess. The formula that we, the legislature, passed out in 2007 was supposed to help clarify the way we fund public charter schools. Instead, it lessened the base to calculate charter school funding, setting up the charter schools for a smaller per pupil amount. The committee report states that overall, the charter schools are getting more money and DOE less money in this budget. What it forgets to present is that the 7% increase in overall funding for charter schools accompanies a 20% increase in public charter school enrollment. Parents are voting with their feet, Mr. Speaker. And there's waiting lines for these innovative schools. What was approximately $8,000 per student last year, because of the not having clarification in the budget formula, dropped to $7,200 per pupil per student. And that is with the additional $1.6 million that the legislature appropriated. We could have been a part of the solution. A purposeful effort was made to include in our law, in the law, that the legislature's ability to add funding as it sees fit. And that was interesting because we know we already have that. We have the ability to add the funding. But in that bill, in that law that was passed, it specifically, again, addresses the legislature to add more funding. Upon reading the provisos, another thing is upon reading the provisos for the DOE and the weighted student formula, I have introduced bills and resolutions to put this discussion of weighted student formula on the table because I think it's a significant discussion to have. And like a hawk, I watched and advocated for this discussion to take place. I also presented what I felt was movement in the weighted student formula by attending the weighted student formula committee meetings and speaking with others so that they could really just have ownership and not having us, the legislature, continually micromanage the education system. Then, well, I'll state what seems to me is behind the scenes, significant changes in policy take place. To my surprise, there are provisos that pull away from the education reform of weighted student formula. It takes $20 million that was supposed to be transitional funding, and it makes it reoccurring base funding. Not necessarily against that, but I would have loved to understand the discussion that would take place because the weighted student formula and transitional funding is, I think, paramount in this discussion.
Excuse me, Representative Pine, will you your time?
Mr. Speaker, I have just 2 more minutes left. One more minute left.
Representative Chang, will you your time?
Yes. Oh, we
Please.
need my time.
Thank you,
please
Mr.
proceed,
Speaker. Thank you,
Representative
Representative from Liliha. This leaves no change to take place. Then the legislature starts to micromanage with the proviso that makes transient students a higher weight and adds money for it. This actually benefits my district, Mr. Speaker. But that's not what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to step back and allow this to take place and guide, but not make a law. This step makes a mockery of the weighted student formula that said we would step out, or we should step out. Educational reform translates to giving the authority and flexibility to the people that matter the most, the community of learners surrounding the students, the teachers in the classroom, the principals, and the parents. Charter schools have done that. Weighted student formula, I believe, supposed to accomplish that. These budget provisos work against that. For these and other reasons, I am voting with strong reservations on this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.